Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Automated. Automated is our weekly podcast where we talk about robots, invent them along the way, and talk about hard things in robots. I, of course, am your host, Stefan and Ilia, CEO and co-founder of Polymath Robotics. And as you can see from our great camera feeds at the moment, sitting next to me is a rogue-like figure wearing a leather jacket just off of a bushwhack, wearing a Polymath Robotics shirt and khaki pants, which I didn't know anyone actually wore by choice. Sir, who are you in the khaki? Are you a sales rep at a Foot Locker, perchance?
I am not the one who stole our cameras.
That's what everyone says when you start talking about their khaki pants. We are cameraless today because our cameras seem to have disappeared from our office, which is great.
We'll keep you updated on this developing news story.
We realized the problem last week. Meant to get cameras before the next podcast, and here we are without cameras and having missed a whole extra week of podcast that we didn't need to do.
This is why I giggle every time you say welcome to our weekly podcast.
Yeah,
because I think it's been 9 weeks since our last episode.
It happens on occasional weeks, and that's what weekly can mean.
That's right.
Yeah. It is a thing that happens
just like Stefan has a beer and every day that ends in day.
Only the ones that end in Y.
That's right.
So again, this is Automated, our robotics podcast. First, we're going to play a little game. We're going to invent a robot from a random card generator that makes us pick a random use case and a random technology. Then we're going to talk about a subject in robotics. And Ilia, what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about working with enterprise as a robotics company. Mm-hmm. Both how do we develop solutions that make sense? How do we fundraise for that?
Yep.
Maybe we'll sneak in a little bit of what's Polymath's been up to at the end.
Maybe.
See where we go.
If you guys are lucky.
Yeah.
Only if you're a double, triple premium subscribers.
Then they wouldn't have missed the last 9 episodes we released.
Those are only for our secret good fans who we really like.
Subscribe to Stefan's Patreon.
And with that, let's play a little game. No, that's not the jigsaw noise. What's jigsaw noise?
Jigsaw?
No, from Saw.
I don't know.
I've been making a Saw reference for 60 episodes, and you never even understood it.
I thought it was just you were trying to make generic, cool transition sound.
No. Sorry, not the sound, but the let's play a little game. Like Jigsaw in Saw is like, hey, do you want to play a game?
I think if none of our listeners, and certainly not your co-host,
all of our listeners understood it. Everyone understood it outside of you and whoever is currently listening to this at the moment, but everyone besides it got the Saw reference and thought it was really timely and up with the time.
It's a good crossover. This is a Saw fanfic and robotics podcast.
Yep. There will be a lot of Saw spoilers. As spoiler number 1, there's some gore.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Boom. Ruined it for you. Don't even need to watch the franchise.
Don't bring your toddler.
All right. So, Ilia, what's our random generator say we should be loading?
We got LLMs for wildlife conservation.
That's great. This is just so
solid.
We need a physical robot first.
Yeah.
So it could be a humanoid, it could be a dog robot, it could be a quadcopter.
Yeah.
What I think is actually interesting.
I saw an article. There was I think in China, but I could be getting it wrong, just recently, where they basically took one of these dog robots and dressed it up in a deer suit. Mm-hmm. And it was patrolling around near endangered herds of this tiny little subarctic deer.
Okay.
Just to keep tabs on them, basically.
That's kind of cool. It is for the 30 minutes that is battery.
Yeah, that's right. But
well, they it was very natural, except for the bright orange extension cable.
No, I mean, my first thought of it, though, was that all these dog robots, their knees bend the other way. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering what deer is like, that thing looks like us, but it doesn't have a smell and its legs are broken.
Yeah.
It's like
that's an interesting
animal version of a zombie.
In the second or third Bobaverse book, where one of them hangs out with little pig rat people.
Yes.
Where the first challenge is we have big noses, we smell stuff, you don't smell, right?
Yeah, you smell like machine oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yes. Dog robot for conservation.
So, all right, here's what I think is interesting with this for LLMs. I believe, as a non-biologist or veterinarian, differentiation between different species is some amount of art. And there's definitely science, but there's some amount of art of when is this herd of deer, when have they been so far removed from the rest of their same species that they become genetically differentiated enough to count as their own species. So there's like some fudge factor for like, is this actually just a normal North American Bambi deer, which I believe is the Latin name, versus a, Western Mill Valley red-eared Bambi deer.
Yeah, it's famously hard to define what exactly species is.
But here, like, hallucinations are helpful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because first of all, the robot has to protect the differentiated animals, and it then has to, slaughter the invaders or shoo them away or something. And if it hallucinates that this deer is a Western Mill Valley red-eared Bambi deer, it protects these 4 deer, but this other one that for, vibes-based reasons, it decides is just a normal North American Bambi deer. It, hits them with the siren, air horn, gun, whatever, and they leave.
Yeah, especially with visual deep learning models, you can do what's called single pixel attacks, where if you can change a single pixel, you can sometimes get it to misrecognize things entirely. And so, if there's poachers in an area that are getting protected by these robot deer, they just come with their gun and a spray can, and they just come in and paint like one orange dot.
Well, I mean, I think suddenly a bunch of deer with orange dots would be hallucinated as a brand new. Like I had a great AI experience this week. I was in Salt Lake City for some meetings, and I fly United. So I got into the airport, got towards the United gates, Googled, is there a United lounge in Salt Lake City? And Gemini was like, absolutely. There have been 3. There's currently 2. One of them's at gate 45. Another's at gate 60. Both have full bars. It's great. I was like, great. United, I'm going to have my choice of United lounges where I can have terrible cheese squares and sit in, passive aggressive silence with a bunch of other business travelers.
And you keep trying to convince me that this is a desirable place to be.
It's better than the TGI Fridays. All right. Or Dallas has the Cowboys bar. That's significantly better than the Cowboys bar in Dallas.
All right.
However, neither of those gates existed. Neither of those United Lounge existed. The entire thing was a hallucination. So if a hunter shows up and spray paints Bambi, the Western Mill Valley red-eared Bambi deer with an orange dot, the protection robot will say, "Oh, wow, this is amazing.
New species.
This is a Northern Mill Valley orange dotted Bambi deer."
That's
and
right.
Yeah, we'll get real aggressive in patrolling.
I think the problem with this will be just funding this. And so I think what you got to do is you actually got to ask the LLM, what is humanity's preferred cute cuddly animal that needs to be protected from conservation?
They're actually, this is another interesting take on this. There's a challenge in the wildlife preservation community that there are certain species that, because they are cute, get disproportionate funding for their protection. So like pandas, penguins, polar bears, people are like pouring money into protecting those. Yeah. But like some ugly slug that like burns your skin if he touches you and is like vital to the ecosystem of the
animal, it's called
Western Panamanian marshland, which is 14 acres large, but these slugs are vital to it. Like those things just get allowed to die because they're uggos. So maybe also our Ranger robot, which is the name, obviously, Ranger robot can determine which species and which pictures of which species are going to be most effective for viability.
That's right, Robotics. We're bringing high school popularity contests into robotics.
Yeah.
Just what you tried to escape in the sweet arms of mechanical stability.
Well, like what's interesting about this, like most of what we just described from an LLM perspective is doable.
Yeah.
Like LLMs deciding which animals are cute or not, which pictures are cute or not, which animals might vaguely fit into which classification or not, and like making a decision that then leads to a deterministic action or a generally straightforward path plan is like a pretty good usage of LLMs in robotics.
Yeah, I mean, concretely, if you asked me, go find the red-tailed deer and make sure your
the Western Mill Valley red-eared Bambi deer.
That's right. Go find that thing and make sure your robot stays within 200 meters of it. I would not know how to solve that problem without deep learning.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's no deterministic algorithm I could give you that would track that specific deer. Unless I put a collar or something.
But once I tagged in a blob as object of interest, like how do you follow it? That wouldn't require LLM.
Oh, absolutely. I think that would be super brittle. Like if you tagged a blob, but then it ran through a forest, which is famous for being dense, right? So
LLM says this is the blob to follow, and can say this is the blob to follow at a rate of 10 to 50 hertz, or something like that.
And then you start following it, and then it runs behind a tree.
And then you go into, and then I do not have a blob to follow. Execute search mode. Do an increasing circle pattern until LLM says new blob to follow. And if my blob following thing breaks because it's brittle, and the deer doesn't run into the forest, but it more just goes behind the bush. When the deer emerges from the bush, I spot it again, and it's time to follow.
Yeah. I think you probably have more luck trying to predict, actually using more deep learning and I'm using deep learning interchangeably with LLM here. I know they're not the same thing, but you'd have more luck predicting behavior with that thread. Where you just observe it a bunch, and you're
based on where it's going, where's it going to be?
Yeah. Where is it going to be? It's probably wants a drink. You'll probably find it at the river right now. Oh, it's the winter. It's probably hibernating.
So let's say the mechanics of this robot all work and power is solved. There's a fusion reactor on the dog, which is really handy. And we built the fusion, the portable fusion reactor, and we only used it for this use case.
Call back to our Swamp Monsters episode, where we just dropped plutonium.
Well, that helps us make new rare species to protect.
That was the first generation robot, and this one's the second one.
Well, so how would we? I assume deer walking through the forest is very much not truly random. If they're particularly spooked, it probably becomes a fastest speed and random direction. Yeah. But I presume there is a pattern of they like this water hole. This is a safe place to sleep. Whatever. So how would we build a pipeline of we have our blob identification product. We have blob following as a fairly deterministic robotics thing, and a search pattern, which is fairly deterministic. How would we go about building a hierarchy of tagged places that the deer likes to go? What would be the best tool for that? Because we don't actually have to know why it likes the water or why it likes we could. It might be useful. We'd have better prediction if we know it's a hot day, so it's more likely to be the water hole.
Yeah. I think you. Probably the first approach I'd take is you assume the robot has some way to localize itself in space, right? So it has some mixture of GNSS and LiDAR.
We're going to string up Wi-Fi beacons throughout the forest.
There you go.
In the name of preservation.
It'll be great. No problems.
It'll be a 6-year, $600 million infrastructure investment, which we'll have to chop down about a third of the forest to achieve.
No.
But it'll help with localization.
You're thinking too small.
Okay.
When the robot doesn't know where it is, deploys a quad rotor to connect to a mesh network. Anyway, but no. Yeah. So the robot has some sort of localization, and you would probably generate something akin to a heat map, where every time you detect the particular species you care about, you put a dot on the map where you are. And maybe the dot where you predict the animal to be, right? And then you just, over time, over weeks or months, you could figure out
what are the key areas?
Where's the highest?
You probably could though, layer in LLM, saying what do I think the animal is doing at this spot?
Right. And I think so the heat map is a data point. In addition to the data point is the data point on how hot does the robot measure it to be? How wet does the robot measure it to be? How what time of day is it? What time of year is it? And if you could fuse all that data into a very multi-dimensional data set.
When it's hot outside, it goes to this spot, which happens to be the water.
Right. And then that's where you get deep learning techniques are very good at taking a very high-dimensional problem and collapsing it down to a very low-dimensional answer.
Yep.
And so that's what you'd use that for, is you'd be able to then predict, okay, if my robot dog only has 30 minutes of battery life, how can it make the most use of those 30 minutes?
Core, so it's okay.
Yeah.
If it was a 30-minute battery life robot dog, how would we convey having a bunch of them swap out? Not battery swap, but series of robot dogs. Leave the doghouse so we always are tracking the deer.
Yeah, so they just exchange roles. I think you'd almost end up with this very weird fleet sort of thing where you'd have a mobile base station.
Yep.
That has a much more significant power supply.
Yep.
That's recharging them as they go around.
Yeah.
But that's a very complicated problem. That is super complicated.
No. We're running power through the forest. That's how we have, 24 volt, 40 volt, 50 volt, whatever you use for a Tesla.
There was a good, there's a good XKCD comic that had a chart of when does solar power make sense? And it was a question of, okay, is the thing you're trying to power with solar panel warm, or does it move as fast as a deer And the answer in both cases was like, haha, good luck. Right? Because like, in either of those cases, you can't possibly connect enough solar power to make it worth your while to operate.
If you're like in the woods or something.
If it's, or even on a bright sunny desert, right? Like your solar panel has to be so, like the anti-example is an electric car.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're moving faster than a deer, the solar panel you'd have to mount to the car is so comically larger than the car itself.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at people who build solar race cars, like university teams, it is this extremely light, extremely low to the ground, basically airfoil wing.
Yep.
That's covered in as thin solar panels as they could possibly manufacture.
So that the weight to power...
so that the weight to power ratio is as good as it possibly can be.
Yep.
And the motor is like 10 watts, maybe. Right? It's like, it's practically a very fancy looking e-bike. Right?
That's such a bummer.
Right? And like all of this effort to get a thing that barely can power itself with the sun.
That's so lame.
Right? It's so comically beyond.
I really love the idea of an electric car with solar panels that powers itself forever.
Well, solar power on a very good day, like I'm talking middle of the desert, sunny day, outputs 100 watts per square meter total.
Like conservation of energy is a BS law.
Right.
And I think whoever invented it should probably have their like head chopped off.
Well, but again, just to give you and our listeners an idea, right? Like, all right, start with solar panel, perfect desert conditions, sunny day, 100 watts per square meter, right? For Americans, a square meter is what, like 3 square feet?
Approximately the size of a desk and a half.
Yeah, sure. How many football fields is that? Right. Anyway,
0.07.
100 watts, right? So of that, the best possible solar panels on the planet will give you 30 watts of usable energy.
Yeah.
Right. And that is like the panels we put on deep space exploration probes that are extremely expensive, right? Realistically, with any atmospherics in play and even the slightest amount of cloud cover, you're down to like 15 watts per square meter. To give you some idea, your Tesla has a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. Right? So 100,000
This is what happens to the podcast when our producer is not in.
Yeah.
We start off with our game.
Yeah.
And we talk about solar
panels. Yeah, but it just every time I see somebody
but again, so for charging the dogs, we're not using solar. We're running power. We're trenching a power cable through the forest.
That will be more likely to succeed than solar panels.
We will cut down a third of the trees in the forest
to save the rest.
No, to save the Western Mill Valley red-eared deer, Bambi deer. Yeah. Number one species.
Yeah. So you're right. Let's go back. All right.
So we need
this roving band of robot dogs that have done a bunch of data collecting so they can predict.
And if we did hot swap batteries, roughly how much energy?
It wouldn't be a hot swap. It'd be the robot goes back to dock.
Well, if we were to use hot swap, how much power do we lose?
In what? Sorry.
Like how much energy efficiency do we lose between battery and dog if it's?
It's not any worse to do hot swap. The problem with hot swap tends to be just the mechanics of it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a order of magnitude power efficiency loss.
No. It's not. No. It's not so bad. It's the problem tends to be.
I lied to my mom this week.
Yeah. The problem with hot swapping batteries is that you need more mechanics around each cell. So each cell has to be armored so that if you drop it doesn't immediately catch fire.
Yeah.
So now instead of
That's fine. It's just the woods.
Right. So instead of the whole battery being battery, you have 80% of the battery being battery and 20% being casing.
Yep.
And then the other problem is that your contacts become very fraught, especially on high power systems. If you have to transmit 50 amps across gold contacts, you have to have really nice contacts. And that becomes a big energy loss. Big as in 2 or 3%.
Oh, okay. But not order of magnitude.
Not an order.
Lied to my mom. It's like middle school all over again.
I'm sure she's very disappointed.
Yep. Okay. So we'd have this roving band and they'd probably have to spend 10 minutes getting to Bambi, 10 minutes following Bambi, 10 minutes returning from Bambi. So we need, if we're not hot swapping batteries, we need
5 of these dogs
more than that.
Be reasonable.
I mean, I assume it takes more than an hour to charge a battery for a robot dog.
Yeah, that's true. Fleet of 10.
Yeah.
So there's a fleet of 10 robot dogs that chase every deer in the forest.
They will be protected.
Yes.
All right. So what do we call this robot? Robo Ranger?
Santa's little helper?
Robot Ranger.
All right.
Robot Ranger 3000.
All right.
Yeah. Available in a forest near you, whether you want it there or not.
and only half likely to protect the deer as it is to shoo away the same deer.
Or classified as a new species, which actually is a side business. We will be able to publish a lot of academic papers on new species.
Reuse the same LLM. Like, you're right, Stefan. You're a genius. This is the red-tailed Bambi deer.
It sees a species, automatically creates an article, and sends it to nature.
Yeah, immediately.
It's just like flooding nature with like tens of thousands of these reported new species discovered every single year.
Constantly.
Yeah. I'll show them in their ivory tower.
I think half our total compute budget has been dedicated to LLM coming up with clever pun names.
Like Bambi deer?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about what we're here to talk about. So we are increasingly an enterprise software company, by which I mean we sell software that has to do with making robots drive themselves to enterprises, which is weird because that's actually kind of different than a lot of robotics companies.
Yeah. And it's different on the business side. And the interesting thing, I was talking to one of our staff engineers, and it's actually interesting. It's different on the actual product side.
Yeah.
So the discussion we were having is, if we were, say, Tesla, for example, the tooling the engineering team would build would almost entirely be dedicated to the engineering team.
Yeah.
Like, the only people who would ever need to see the data coming out of a Tesla, like the actual data, not the nice UI interface.
Yep.
But like the actual data is the engineering team and maybe the transport safety bureau.
Whereas like we have customers who want to see our bag files and they want to see them annotated in a certain way and want to know certain types of statuses automatically attached to those bag files.
Right. And not only that, they also want to use that data to then do secondary and tertiary things like predictive maintenance, or if you're driving around a pit, to measure the size of the pit so that you can figure out how much material you've extracted. Like that's a very reasonable thing that they want. We've already put a $30,000 sensor suite on there. Like, we might as well give them the data for it anyway. And so that puts us kind of at a very different place where we have to both build tooling that's useful to us, but also build tooling that's usable for the operators who just want to click a button and have the robot do its thing. And then the completely other end of the spectrum of the users who want to have all the data and do everything complicated with that they want to do that's very specific to their particular mining application.
What I find interesting about this is, so like the markets that we mostly serve are markets where a lot of optimization has already happened. Like, we have a big ag client who like has done big studies into like, should you ever turn left at the end of a harvest row? We have mining clients who spend lots of time thinking about like systems to more efficiently orchestrate the operation of their mine, which is a very different set of SLAs for us to interact with than just like, hey, we're going to do mining as a service, or we're going to be trucks as a service, or we're going to do farming as a service. Like, we kind of have to fit within this bigger IT infrastructure system that is itself so challenging that like we were talking the other day about how if we solved AGI tomorrow, it functionally wouldn't change the problems our customers face. Our customers like don't need AGI. They need like better integrated robots.
Yeah. And I mean, the concrete example we give of this that you talk about a bunch is that like, in the ideal world, if I was running a mine, I could look up the cost to the material I'm mining versus the cost of fuel. And if the price is up, I should mine a little faster. And if the price is down, I should mine a little slower because it's slightly more efficient. And like, that is the way to optimize. And business folks would love to have the capability.
I frequently refer to that as MBA porn.
Exactly. Like the McKinsey types would write papers on that all day.
And to be like things like that for some of the major giant mines, like the ones with like market caps in the hundreds of billions of dollars, would probably drive more profit to them than like eliminating human labor. Yeah.
And concretely, you know, we talked to one group and we learned that they were spending basically 2 oil tankers full of diesel fuel a year just idling the engines on their fleet because
while people are waiting to be told what to do.
Yes, because the drivers were waiting to be told what to do and didn't want to turn off the engine because they like the AC being on. Which, like, in these conditions, you have to have the AC on. To be clear, you'll die. Otherwise.
Yeah, they're not sissy la-las.
Right. Like, it is.
And don't tell them we said that they were, because they'll beat us up.
Yeah, it is like 140 Fahrenheit outside. And like, you will happily die without AC. So this is a case where 2 tankers full of diesel a year is burned because it's not quite efficient to tell them what to do right at that moment. And that's a huge amount of resources and cost and damage to the environment that is just not done because of efficiency of human communication and planning.
And if for example, you wanted to drive your mine 10% faster because the ore price is up, like the change management that it would take to achieve that would be like hundreds of meetings with drivers to be like, no, today you're driving at 45 miles an hour, not 30 or not 40.
Yeah.
And like and compliance would be less than 100%.
Yeah.
And going around and changing the governor that limits top speed on these vehicles would be a multi-week, multi-month process. And like functionally, a decision like that is outside of the reach of large enterprises with billions of dollars of reason to want to do it.
Yeah. And for a startup like us, right, we could come to them and we could pitch, hey, there's this whole autonomy system we could do. There's all these benefits. And they kind of look at it and they're like, yeah, or we could just add a little timer to the ignition that turns off the engine. And like, if we add that timer, we would save 2 oil tankers full of diesel a year. And it would cost us 50 cents. Right. And like, that is a hilarious return on investment.
We have a program that just kicked off. And while autonomy is on the roadmap, the big initial step is, hey, can you make it so that our operators can't reverse into things?
Yeah.
Like we want to make sure that when the vehicle is in reverse, obstacle detection is up and you can't drive into stuff, because on a per site basis, our team drives into $2 million worth of stuff a year.
Yeah.
And if you can stop that, like, I don't care about getting rid of labor. I don't care about AGI. I don't care about any of this. I care about, like, let's no longer run over people when we're in reverse or things.
Right. And so there's a bunch of these niche use cases, which are niche in terms of, well, I can't start a startup that just is reverse detection. Although, honestly, there are companies that do that.
Yeah.
There are companies that provide cameras that are just reverse blind spot detection.
Yep.
That is a business.
There's companies that sell NFC tags. Yeah. You have everyone wear an NFC tag and then you buzz if anyone's close to you.
Exactly. Right. Like there are entire companies dedicated to just that one field, but that is not the, VC backable startup, SaaS startup dream, right? Yep. You can make $5 to $10 million. You're not going to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
And so the problem has been, how do we what is the unlock technology to solve all these problems simultaneously?
Yep.
And our view on that is, well, it's autonomy.
Yep.
It's autonomy, which enables you not to back up into things. It's autonomy that enables you to drive slower when fuel prices are higher. It's autonomy that enables you to be more efficient with your system dispatch. And so that's our big bet. But
what's neat is, like, you have to fit within that existing ecosystem.
Right.
Like
you can't just cut it down. We can't just come in and say, use our fleet management system that we created.
I was talking to someone from Singapore earlier this week, not connected to the Port of Singapore, but talking about the Port of Singapore as an example. So the Port of Singapore is one of the busiest ports in the world. Almost certainly for their fleet management system in that port, they have spent hundreds of millions of dollars setting up that orchestration layer. They probably have in the range of 250 to 1,000 yard trucks. And those vehicles, probably represent a capital account of, I don't know, $10 million, $50 million in total. 50,000 times 250,000, whatever. Math is hard. So swapping out all those vehicles is a pretty hard way to get anything started. So if you were going to go into that account and say, hey, you need new vehicles. Hey, you need to rip out your yard management system and use the thing that we built, you'd functionally be laughed out of the room.
Yeah, imagine yourself, dear listener, on the side of this business, on the side of the mine manager. Like, hey, our mine is profitable. We do well. I have a good job. I get paid well, whatever. Here comes this startup that says, how about you roll everything on a 00 on the roulette table?
Yep.
And if you lose everything and you probably get fired. And if you win, you get a 5% bonus in productivity. Like, would you take that bet?
So a thought I've been having with this is, even, let's say you're just focusing on yard trucks for ports. And let's say you initially win interest or POC or whatever, the Port of Singapore. And sure, there's like other ports you talk to, but like they're the ones who lean in. There's then a big, you then have some window to make it work with that port, to make your autonomy work in their environment, to make your autonomy work on the types of vehicles that they most care about automating, to make your autonomy work at the behest of their fleet management system. And, that time window that you have is greater than 3 months, less than 3 years.
Yeah.
Like I'd say probably averaging out to 1 to 2 years to make it work, which then kind of leads you to overfit yourself to the Port of Singapore and their particular implementation of OIMS, which might have been built in-house, which might be an Oracle yard management system, but heavily customized because in Singapore, their port is from left to right as opposed to right to left because of something that happened in 1971.
And their regulations require that you have to file these 5 forms.
And they drive at 30 kilometers an hour. And if you ever go 31 kilometers, it's a big deal. So then you're talking to the Port of Los Angeles, where 31 kilometers is not really a real number.
Oh, side note, just for fun digression, one of our safety drivers at a mine site got fired for using a cell phone during autonomous operation.
Yeah.
Which is like, that was our first kind of interaction with like, oh, they take this very seriously.
Yeah.
Right? Like the autonomy system
was on the phone with us.
Yeah. And like felt pretty bad, but he was apparently well aware of that rule. So
you might be able to make that first program work. But then like at literally anywhere else, you're going to have to redo a lot of this like kind of pain in the butt enterprise software implementation. And even programs that we've been working with for a while, we keep on learning new things. Like we had a situation just the other week where we realized that one of the vehicles that we're on has a manually variable wheelbase.
Yeah.
Where field technicians can change the width of the tires. And we're doing bring up of an additional vehicle in that program. And we're like, why is this turning weird? And like, oh, well, yeah, it's configured for this, this wider wheelbase. Like, what? This is how did we never grok that this was a thing that you guys did? Which I liken to, were we any other autonomy company, that probably would have been the end of the next 6 months for us.
Yeah, been a problem.
So yeah, we're in this interesting, challenging spot where we're building stuff that's super valuable for these markets where we have to layer ourselves in the middle of a bunch of other incredibly valuable technology at kind of the core of their operations. And going to the fundraising side, while the companies that we work with, many collectively would pretty happily pay us hundreds of millions of dollars a year, a challenge that we routinely face is that no one on Sand Hill Road has heard of any of them.
Yeah. And vice versa.
Yes.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
What's your story?
Yeah, I remember we were having a meeting with some high up big executives at Hexagon, a $20 billion mining ag technology company. They basically have a bunch of different products that make money off of things that touch vaguely GPS. And they asked us about fundraising, and I, expressed, a challenge of ours is that I would go so far as to bet that Mark Andreessen has no idea who Hexagon is. And the executives looked at me very puzzled and said, who's Mark Andreessen? Which I don't think any VC I've ever told that story to fully believes that is true.
Yeah.
The celebrities on Sand Hill Road have no bearing on the celebrities of
the mining the mining universe,
or of ag, or of defense, or of anywhere.
Yeah, they're all extremely large markets that A, have no idea that anybody else exists.
Yeah.
And B, are convinced that they are the linchpin that keeps civilization. And it's true. It's true.
And
right?
to any of our customers who are listening, you alone are the linchpin.
You are absolutely.
It's all of the other customers who are irrelevant to society, but you in particular are the special one.
But I mean, they're not wrong, right? Like if food stopped appearing on tables, civilization would cease.
No, I just farm in my backyard.
In your backyard. In your
San
favela.
Francisco. Yeah.
So you divide your backyard into half favela, half farm. Right? Yeah. But if iron mining stopped, civilization would end. Yeah. Right? Like it's true. Yeah. It's functionally true.
Yeah.
Right. But because you have this extremely deep technical well that focuses and also that the general public knows exactly
very little about. Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Right. Like unless you have a parent who's related to oil mining or oil development, you have no idea how that works. You have no idea how gas ends up in your car.
I'm not going to say which company because it's embarrassing, but even I only just recently learned about another $300 billion mining company.
Yeah. They're all over the place.
Yes.
Right. And it makes sense because these are all these are the very bottom of the pyramid that build everything else in the universe. Mm-hmm. Right. Like your oil, your natural resources, your food, your water, like all of those groups make everything else possible. But they're practically invisible to everyone else.
Especially to the kind of global tech elite who tend to overlap the most with VC, the Sand Hill Road VC market.
Right. Because from their perspective, it's, if you don't have the software, none of this works.
Yep.
Which is also true, right? But sort of narrow-minded.
Yeah, and I feel like an interesting thing for us is we do really cool stuff, which, you should be able to have an ego about. But basically everyone we interact with is a really big fish in an unconnected pond from any other pond.
Yes.
So we always have to feel like little fish in little ponds. Yeah. Like, oh, great master of this corner of ag. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Oh, great master of this corner of defense. Thank you for taking this time to chat with us. It's kind of the most like humbling company I can imagine being a part of.
And
because anytime you do something cool, they're like, oh, but that industry doesn't matter.
Well, but not only that, like Stefan isn't being facetious here. Like they have no reason they should be talking with us.
Yes. Oh yeah. No.
Right?
To
be clear.
We're not cool enough for any of the conversations.
Yeah. We have no. The only reason we're in these discussions is because they have literally no other choice. Yeah. Right. Like there's nobody else who understands that you have to serve these markets in a reasonably flexible way that doesn't vendor lock them into one particular solution. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't and also that brings in learnings from agriculture and applies them to mining, which is also frankly unheard of.
Yeah.
Right. Like the concrete technical example we always give is a agricultural feature that we were requested was to have one vehicle follow another vehicle at a set offset.
Yep. Or a tunable offset, actually.
Exactly. A dynamically settable offset, right? So you can follow the vehicle on the right, on the left, behind, wherever you want, in front.
You can change that offset in flight.
You can change that in flight, right? And then the very quickly it was like that following behavior is exactly what platooning looks like for defense.
Yep.
And it is exactly
in defense they call it leader follower
or leader follower.
Yeah. Platooning is in trucking.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, even I'm getting confused. Right? Platooning for trucking is the same as leader follower for defense, which is the same as having your mining dump truck drive up to the excavator at a certain point and follow it around when it's getting filled.
Or similar to a mine sweeping.
Yeah. Right. And so there's a bunch of consistency and each of these sectors have built their own very specific solutions without bringing in any of the knowledge or technical expertise from any other sector.
Yep.
How's fundraising going?
Yeah. So we kicked off a weird experiment of a fundraising process a month or so ago, which to be clear has not yet netted us a giant pile of cash, but has been interesting both because it's been super valuable and I suspect it's going to get us a pile of cash. And more than that, it's going to get us customers.
So fundraising as sales tactic.
Yes.
I think that's a new one.
Yeah.
At least I have listeners. If you've heard of this before, please let us know because we have actually looked and we have not found anybody else who's grokked this yet.
Well, I think there's industries like there's tools like Superhuman who use fundraising as a way to sell people $10 a month licenses or $100 a month licenses.
Sure,
great for big deal enterprise sales. It's more weird. So basically this same sort of story that I said about Hexagon and Mark Andreessen has been repeated a whole bunch of times. In fact, I often when I meet with VCs, I do like a little verbal test, which sounds super Machiavellian and psychopathic with me, where I tell them stories about how...
So fits with VCs.
I tell a story about how back when I was in trucking, I get weird inbound from random companies I'd never heard of, like BHP, and they'd ask for blah, 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 blah. And I either like see an obvious like giggle of recognition or a nodding along to pretend they know who I'm talking about. And that determines whether or not they've ever heard of BHP, who is one of multiple $300 billion mining companies, where if you do not know who BHP is, you probably will make me explain why serving the mining and ag industries is not serving an interesting niche, as I have to routinely defend. So,
but if you capture the whole ag and mining market, like how big of a company?
Like you make like $1 million a year, sure. When are you gonna do robo taxis?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the real market for this is robo taxis.
Robo taxis, that's right.
To be clear to listeners, the collective markets that we serve are worth 18 trillion with a T dollars globally. A large chunk of which is spent on vehicle operators.
As with any business, a large chunk of it is spent on human beings.
Yes, which is to say, there's a lot of money in these markets, but we found ourselves constantly having to explain even that like mining is a worthwhile industry to go after, let alone that like all these collective industries are valuable. So we kicked off a process to have an investment bank target primarily strategics for us. And there's a couple things with that were the aim. One is we have some big, cool companies that we work with, and hey, how many of them would be interested in investing? And so far, it seems like a decent number of them are.
Yep.
But more than that is the iBankers are really good at getting connectivity to the actual people who do corporate venture and corporate big deals for the types of companies that we want to sell to. And that means that, like, if you value deals at how much money they would pay us if we won them and they were successful and we expanded and it was 10 years from now, it means that realistically, the fundraising process has probably brought us billions or even over $10 billion of ARR worth of pipeline.
Yeah.
From OEMs that we've never been able to get a meeting with before, mining companies that we've never been able to directly talk to before, large, big range of different companies that like have all been looking for solutions like this. Some of which, we got to meet the relevant team who then said, oh, we can build this in-house so well, which means we'll be able to follow up in 6 to 9 months when they realize that was a lie.
Oh, that's been also a very good strategy enterprise-wise.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you want to build in-house? That's great. Sounds awesome. I'd love to catch up in 6 to 9 months.
Yep.
Let me know how it goes.
At least once when we sent the 6-month catch-up, we learned that a month later, the whole team got laid off, which, yikes. Especially because that team made us jump through a bunch of hoops to show how cool we were and then badmouthed us. But like what we found is like there's this massive well of people who know these markets, who have strategic interest in working with us, and who actually like the pitch for them to invest in us is not 10x your money or 100x your money. The pitch for them to invest in us is if we exist and we can serve them, we can double their multiple if we automate their fleets, and that will be worth more than they could ever see on a venture basis.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, the interesting thing, and we talk about this a little bit in, for example, the mining space, pulling out that example. Gold mining today isn't that there's a guy with a pickaxe and he finds gold nuggets the size of his fist. Like that is not how gold mining
for
works.
it.
Yeah, he pans.
I went to a little tourist town thing. He pans, right?
No,
and he has like 2 teeth and overalls.
Yeah, that's right. And a straw hat.
Yeah.
No. So modern, reasonable gold mining is a geologist has determined there is some fraction of an ounce of gold per ton of material in this direction in the ground. And if you dig at 1.4 degrees downwards for the next 500 meters, you will get an average of 1.5 ounce of gold per ton. Like that is modern gold.
Grams per ton.
Yeah, or grams.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Like not even ounces.
It's not even ounces. Yeah. Exactly. So
my favorite part is then you pour arsenic water on the mud to get the gold to bubble out.
Yeah.
So you get stuck with gold and arsenic mud.
Yeah,
which is a fun substance to be around.
Yeah, I mean, like tailings ponds reclamation is another thing that we've looked into, but that's a story for another day. So, but what happens is that the groups that seriously do gold mining know very, very well what their labor costs are, what their setup costs are, and how many grams per ton is profitable for them. But they also know very well, because geologists they don't bat 100 or whatever the proper baseball term is. 1,000? I don't know.
1,000.
1,000, yeah. They don't bat 1,000.
So until you said that, I forgot that it wasn't, because I'm not very cool myself.
I'm baseball. Anyway, trying to relate to my American.
You only follow hockey?
I follow exactly no sport.
Anyway. I'm a big highlight guy.
Yeah, that's right.
My fantasy team's doing great this year, though.
But they know exactly how many grams needs to be per ton for them to actually make a profit. And if the geologist goes and surveys the site and says it's 0.1 grams below their target, they're not going to bother, because they're just going to lose money.
Yep.
And so they will buy the site anyway, and they'll wait for the gold price to go up.
Yeah. I've actually heard stories where waste material in old mines, in old copper mines in the US, the mines that have been closed are now being bought and reopened, because what they used to discard as waste 30, 40 years ago is now valuable enough.
Is now worth it, right?
Yep.
And so all this is a long-winded way of saying that what goes into that equation of what's profitable is largely labor.
Yep.
Some of it is CapEx, some of it is buying the land, blah, 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 treatment. But again, as with any business, a very large chunk of your costs is your people costs. And so the more people you can remove, the more sites you can actually operate profitably, which means the actual more product they can ship for you.
And it also means you could do things like you could have sites that you toggle on or off based on prevailing conditions.
Right.
So if you own the site, but like you don't instead of having 5,000 people working around the clock, you have 10 people in caretaker mode. Yeah. But then, hey, gold spikes.
Exactly.
You turn on those vehicles, have them do a bunch of autonomous mining, maybe some teleop stuff for things that are too weird. Yeah. To get money out of it while gold is high, and turn them all off when gold drops again.
Yeah. Robots for some reason don't form unions.
Yeah.
And they're
it's not really about unions. It's more about like robots are okay sitting around getting paid nothing
for 6 months at a time.
It could be 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, you
as long as the battery doesn't rust, like you're fine.
Yeah.
You can ignite it and keep going. So exactly. So there's a lot of reasons why this opens up the opportunity to develop more resources more profitably today.
Yep.
Right. And that's the very kind of somewhat worked out example in mining, but there's similar examples in agriculture and whatever, right?
Yep.
Where anytime you're doing gathering, for example, our agricultural client, you necessarily will not be 100% efficient in picking your crop, whatever it is, because to be 100% efficient is much slower than being 90% efficient.
Yep.
And is much slower than being 80%.
And there's actually challenges with, like, if we go too slow, we won't be able to get to all of our fields. We won't be able to get the easier to harvest crop.
Right. Because fruit or whatever, corn, doesn't matter, will rot eventually if you just leave it there.
So, like, there's actual, like, an ag example of what you said earlier with mining changing the speed is a thing that, like, corn farmers in, like, the Midwest will do is they will change their harvest speed based on how soon they think it's going to rain.
Yeah.
If they think they have 3 to 5 days or a week or two left before the rains come, they will start harvesting at, say, 2x the speed, because while their yield will drop by 30% per acre, they'll cover 70% more. They'll cover twice as many acres if they double their speed.
And the really fun part is your cornfield and your neighbor's cornfield come due at the exact same time.
Yep.
To the minute, they're ripe at the exact same time. And so you basically have no choice but to employ whatever labor you can get your hands on, run your operation.
And if any of that labor disappears, you're kind of hosed.
You're hosed. Your crop just rots, right? And this, especially, during COVID, there was this whole issue where farmers would plant food that didn't have a market for it because all the restaurants were closed. And so actual market crops, you'd plant it, you'd harvest it, nobody would buy it, you'd destroy it. And then you'd plant again because who knows when COVID would end.
Yeah.
And so you'd go through the cycle over and over and over again.
Yep.
Because to actually make any money and not be horribly in debt, your final crop that actually did get bought had to be ready. Because the corn's not going to grow in the middle of December. It's just not.
And for that to be for that to stop being such a big problem, the two biggest things that you could get rid of the cost for are your labor and your energy.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to make electric industrial or ag equipment because you want it to be really big because you don't have many people to work. So solving the labor problem with autonomy means you can have a larger number of smaller electric vehicles.
Which are more efficient.
Means that, like, if you already own the land, if this corn farmer already owns the land, they're probably getting rid of 50-80% of the cost if they no longer have to worry about the fuel to drive the tractor and the person
driving it.
Yeah.
So there's examples like this in all our industries, and that's been working out very well for us in terms of, to give an update because we've been silent for 9 weeks. We've been very, very busy.
Yeah, I've been on the road for the last 3 weeks functionally. I am beat.
I've been somewhat enjoying the Stefan downtime because the office, as has the rest of the office, to be clear.
That makes me feel even better. Thank you, Ilia. Everyone's been liking it while you're away. It's funny. You sound like my wife.
That's a personal problem. No, I get these funny kind of comments at lunch like, it's really quiet around here today.
It's weird.
But no, we've been busy both trying to close deals, which has been going very well, I think.
Yep.
Our silence has been driven by...
We have programs kicking off. We have programs ramping up and scaling into multiple units. We have just a lot of things going on. We're very much feeling like that stage of a startup where, like, you're trying to keep up with
you're trying to keep up with demand.
We're no longer pushing the boulder up the hill. The boulder is chasing us down the hill.
We're trying not to get flattened. Exactly. But it's looking to be a pretty successful year for Polymath, and keep going.
Yeah.
Any other updates to share that I think of?
Yeah, we're going to be doing more hiring in the next 6 to 12 months, largely on the side of, like, applications engineers and program management. Basically, our big problems are starting to look like people in meetings with clients to keep customer programs moving forward. And we would love technical people who can talk to folks, who can help be a part of automating the industries that hold up the pyramid that is modern civilization.
Yeah. Concretely, if this Venn diagram describes you, please reach out. I like to talk to people and solve complicated problems. I like to be organized and keep a thing on track. And I like to work with robots.
Yep.
If those three things meet you, we more than likely will have a spot for you in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Maybe not tomorrow, but quite soon.
Yep.
So do keep us in mind.
And with that, I think that's
That's a long episode. You can tell our producer is not here today.
Yeah.
Because we
did the
rambled
game
on
for like 40 minutes or something, 20 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah. Usually we get this very silent, like, finger across the throat line.
She actually pulls out a razor blade.
Yeah.
And it's very intimidating because she does the like slicing throat thing, but like in a mean direction where it feels like the razor blade is going to pop out and get me.
So if once we recover our cameras or get new ones, if you see Stefan looking up startled, that's what's happening behind the camera. Just keep an eye out for it in future episodes.
With that, we'll sign off for now. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
See you next time.